Howdy, my name is Rafael Riojas. I work for the Traffic Safety Division in the Policy and Standards Branch, and I'm going to be presenting the 2024 Standard Spec Book update for the 600 series items. So let's go ahead and get started. Item 610, roadway illumination assemblies. The field sampling and testing of luminaires has been removed according to report TEX 1110-T. A relocation section, there's some added instruction to clean the optical assembly when reusing. And then there's some extra notes added to when replacing luminaires that the replacement of conductors and breakaway fuse holders when necessary. Item 613, high mast illumination poles. In the fabrication section, added ultrasonic testing of seam welds. Also added some specification for mechanically guided thermal cut holes, and also added ultrasonic testing of the base plate weld for toe cracks after galvanizing. The fabrication tolerances table was updated. And let's move on to item 614, high mast illumination assemblies. In the description, there was a new item added for replacing luminaires. And for the installation, added support assembly to fabrication instructions. Because replace luminaires was added, there are added instructions to the construction, measurement, and payment sections for the replacement of the high mast luminaires. Item 616, performance testing of lighting systems. The contractor no longer has to wait till the end of the contract. He just has to pass a 14-day performance test before turning over maintenance over to the department. Item 617, temporary roadway illumination. Change the description for measurement and payment for two items, for setup and removal and maintain roadway illumination. So setup and removal is measured by the each. Roadway illumination assembly installed. So for example, a relocation is considered an instance of setup and removal. Maintained roadway illumination is measured by the month and covers the complete illumination system. Electrical service responsibilities were changed to match that of item 681, temporary traffic signals. For item 618, conduit, the information for prepare existing conduit from the special spec 6027 was added to the standard spec. And then there was also minor clarifications of wording to the other sections. We have a new item here, item 619, intelligent transportation system, ITS multi-duct conduit. This used to be special spec 6016. It was converted to this new standard spec. This differentiates between conduit that's used for communication or electrical with that of ITS multi-duct conduit. And continuing here with item 619, the materials and equipment sections were moved from the special spec to a new DMS 11035. And that is referenced in the item 619. And then there's two additional paragraphs at the end of the first section of construction. Ensure a watertight seal of conduit to structure wall when terminating the conduit, and to install markers using a method that firmly secures them a minimum of 1 foot into the ground. And the spacing of the markers should not exceed 1,000 feet and should be placed at significant changes such as 90-degree turns. Item 620, electrical conductors, minor clarifications of wording. Same thing here with item 621, tray cable. Item 622, duct cable. This was removed from the standard specifications and converted to a statewide special specification due to low usage on projects. We have another new Item here, item 623, ITS ground box. This was converted from a special spec. And item 624, ground boxes. They added aggregate to the payment section. This is to be in line with the standard for ground boxes that calls for aggregate base. And so this will allow for clarification of that the aggregate is paid for with this bid item. Item 625, zinc coated steel wire, minor changes, as you can see here on the screen. And item 627, treated timber poles, minor changes to wording and punctuation, and updated table 1 to refer to the AWPA. Item 628, electrical services. In the payment section, they added a note that the permanent service can be put in the department's name after construction unless otherwise shown in the plans. Item 636, signs. Added wording to allow for sign supports to be replaced. Remove the description that refers to refurbishing. And 3 sections were removed and replaced with a new section. Sign blanks, sign face retroreflectorization, and sign messages were all replaced with a new section just called signs. And this new section references DMS 8301, highway sign fabrication. In the hardware section, some wording was changed from to avoid tearing to when in direct contact with. And a new section was added for sign identification decals. You'll see that here in a little bit when we talk about item 631. I mean, sorry, 643. Continuing here with item 636, signs. Removed some information about fabrication and replaced it with decals. The refurbishing section was removed. You can see there's some other minor changes here. And section 5.2 replacement added wording to allow existing hardware to be reused when applicable. This is the section. So item 643, sign identification decals, has been removed as a standard item. And this has been relocated within item 636 that we just talked about. Item 644, small roadside sign assemblies, added a requirement under item 3.5 that if signs are to be reused, they should be stored off the ground and in a vertical position until erected. Item 647, large roadside sign supports and assemblies, added description of 1.4 replacement, allows to replace the existing large roadside sign assemblies, and deleted some text within 3.2 installation. In 3.3 relocation, the words or lengthen was removed. So when you're relocating a sign, you can use the existing supports and you can shorten them if you want to, but you cannot lengthen them. Item 650, overhead sign supports. In the materials section, added item 420, concrete substructures, and added wording to require cost plan and elevation sheets, cost and OSB table sheets, and any other sheets needed to support the design calculations. Change some wording from size of pipe to pipe diameter and wall thickness. Continuing here with item 650, added that taper columns are permitted, provided that the calculations provided demonstrate that it is adequate for the truss to column connection. There are some added details for monotube type overhead sign supports. And then here also, they added text about the ultrasonic testing and the text for mechanically guided thermal cut holes. Item 654, sign walkways. In section 3.2 fabrication, there's new text shown here in bold that talks about how The fabrication plants must be on the approved list that's maintained by the Materials Test Division. Item 656, foundations for traffic control devices. There are no major changes. Item 658, delineator and object marker assemblies, added a description of replacement to be able to replace delineators or object markers. Simplified some phrasing, consolidated some paragraphs, removed a note that said install surface mount and other types of delineators and object markers in accordance with details shown on the plans, and added section 3.3 replacement to go with the description that was added earlier. Continuing here with item 658, again, some changes with the replacement addition. Clarified some wording about plan quantity measurements, and added some assemblies. Install high-speed, high-impact assemblies, replace delineator assemblies, and replace object marker assemblies. In the section 5.2 removal, removed a sentence stating that removal is subsidiary to the bid items, and added section 5.3 replacement, as we talked about earlier. Item 662, work zone pavement markings. There's minor changes. In the non-removable section 2.1, added paint and beads. In the removable and short-term marking section 2.2, they added traffic buttons. And then they removed from the do not use list multi-polymer pavement markings. And in section 3.3, the performance requirements updated the visible distance to be from 300 feet to 320 feet. So an equal number of skip lines. Item 666, reflectorized pavement markings. There's new guidance on the use of multiple polymer pavement markings. Expanded the mobile retroreflectometer specification and TTI certification requirements. Added some text to talk about our new 6-inch lines as compared to our old 4-inch requirement. There's some new thermoplastic heating requirements for type 1 markings, and expanded direction as to when inadequate markings should be replaced. Continuing here with item 666, added some additional details about surface cleaning and preparation and pavement definitions. Expanded the definitions for raised profile markings. There's also new durability requirements, new retroreflectivity requirements for each type of pavement marking. There's new specifications for both high performance and all weather markings, and pavement definitions for the marker types and surface preparation. Have another new item 667, mobile retroreflectivity data collection for pavement markings. So this talks about how it used to be special spec 6438, and it talks about here how it's required for all items 666 projects that have over 20,000 lineal feet of striping. Item 668, prefabricated markings. It added the underlined section here and rumble strips. There's some expanded definitions of the type B and C markings, and some expanded definitions for measurement and payment. And the placement limitations were removed from section 3.2. Continuing here with item 668, there's some newly included rumble stripe markings. Again, new durability requirements. So that's here in 3.6.1. Provide materials that do not lose more than 5% of the material in any 1 foot section. And that's under the ASTM D913. Minor modifications to the performance period, and added the new prefabricated rumble strips to the pavement section. Item 672, raised pavement markers. In the materials section, added type 2 CC markers. And in the construction section, some minor changes. And then in the last bullet here, it says that all RPMs must meet the performance requirements for at least 30 calendar days after installation. Item 677, eliminate existing pavement markings and markers. In the materials section, added item 315 fog seal. In the construction section, added reference to the pavement markings handbook. And section 4.1 surface treatment method, there was some minor wording changes. In section 4.2 burn method, they added a note: ensure the burning heads are not left in one place for too long to prevent pavement damage. And in section 4.3 blasting method, added the words high pressure to water blasting. Section 4.4 mechanical method, added notes to not use the flail method on grooved concrete and porous asphalt. There's a new section, 4.5 corrective actions. So whenever the markings that were removed continue to simulate pavement markings to the extent determined by the engineer that causes driver confusion, you can apply a 2-foot wide fog seal or slurry seal over the area where the markings were removed. Item 678, pavement surface preparation for markings. In the materials section, added some notes when abrasive blasting is used. In section 4, construction, replace blast cleaning with blast methods in accordance with section 677 that we just talked about, blasting methods. Item 680, highway traffic signals, updated the wiring guidance to now allow 14 gauge traffic signal cable. There is a color coding chart for the Cat 6 cable to use different colors as they go to different components in the signal cabinet. And railroad preemption also has its color coding chart. Some updates to cabinet requirements for the components and the face and the railing. Continuing here with item 680, some changes to the test period and the payment section. So for example, this example shown here is a restricted crossing U-turn, where you make a right turn followed by a U-turn to make a left turn. And sometimes these intersections require 2 signal cabinets. So this payment allows you to pay for multiple cabinets. And then it's reemphasized that span wire is paid for under item 625 and that signs are paid for under item 636. Item 681, temporary traffic signals. The response time was updated to match that of item 680. And if there's going to be remote access to use TxDOT provided equipment. Portable traffic signals, as shown on the right in that photo, can now be used as part of this pay item. Item 682, vehicle and pedestrian signal heads. They added a removal section. They updated some wiring and construction guidance to install a trip loop to only strip the outer jacket at the point of termination. And then there's additional guidance on wiring when removal is used. Item 684, traffic signal cables. They also added a removal section. And then for wiring, there's clarified that 5-foot extra coil cable at the span wire pole and at each head be provided. Item 685, roadside flashing beacon assemblies. There's minor changes to the language in there. Removal of some extra terms. And then in the installation and relocation sections, it was clarified that they added some additional wording that when you have a solar panel, solar powered flashing beacon assembly, that includes batteries and battery boxes. Item 686, traffic signal pole assemblies. They also added a removal section, and they expanded the language on long mast arm assemblies. Item 687, pedestal pole assemblies. There's minor changes in the wording, such as removing extra terms and adding in required wording such as battery and battery box. My assumption is that was left off as well. They added the use of a locking collar if you're in a high wind area, and clarified that new pedestrian push buttons are paid for under this next item we're going to talk about, item 688. You can see here in the description that the word loop was struck from the description, pedestrian detectors and vehicle detectors. So updated language to say that without the word loop in there, and added removal. So the reason that was removed is that vehicle detectors are not done by just loops anymore. There are cameras, as one of the Vivids. There's radar, and then there's hybrid options. And finally here, item 690, maintenance of traffic signals and illumination. The response time was also updated to match that of item 680. Added some additional items that can be maintained. That's illumination, screw-in and cabinet foundations, and battery backup units. Some additional language about rerouting wiring is listed in this new item, or this updated item. And clarified that traffic control plans are a separate cost, and added language throughout. So that's all we got. Thank you for attending this session.